Yo, what's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Gonna go through, hopefully hit some good plays. PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy. I try to focus, in these videos on all the main books. So let me just log in very quickly here to ParlayPlay as well. So I always recommend, kind of sports betting 101, have as many books as possible. You never know which books are going to have good bets on a given day. So the more books you have access to, the better. Fliff, Underdog, more is better. So anyways, what we can do is we can kind of start out with Underdog Fantasy. Why not? So we'll go back here, and here you can see what we got open on Underdog Fantasy. Some of these are from live streams. Some I give out on Twitter. But regardless, let's get into it. So some esports line discrepancies on PrizePicks right now. But why don't we start out on Underdog? Whatever. So a lot of these plays, like if you take a look here, we have this CS2 esports line discrepancy. Esports is a pretty random sport, so you may be thinking like, why would I bet on esports? But what's great about esports is there's a ton of games. So every single day there's dozens and dozens of esports games. So there's a lot of surface area for books to cover. More games, more profitable bets. All these books are setting their own lines. So the more games, the better. But anyways, where do we want to start out? For this player, Olymp, you only have two sports books posting lines. You have Underdog, and then you have Hot Streak. So there's only two books. So you only have two data points on like, okay, where should the line be set? Same thing with here, like this play on Morels. So this isn't super useful for us. Like if we look at this player, it's like, okay, we have two books. There's this discrepancy. It's interesting, right? Like the sports betting market is super fragmented. All these books set their own lines. That's why there's a lot of opportunity in sports betting because there's tons of sports books. They all try to set their own line. So we want to see discrepancies, right? So here we have this discrepancy in this OddsJam Fantasy Optimizer. It's just pointing out discrepancies, but you only have two books, Hot Streak and Underdog. So, as a data-driven sports bettor, it's not really clear like, okay, which book is wrong. But if we take a look here, we can find some other plays. So why don't we refresh this? And you can see here, there's actually some plays that pop up on the positive EV tool as well. So the main way to be Underdog, so if you take a look here, this is called the positive EV tool. Where is it? Boom. So essentially, like the way that Underdog Fantasy works is they have fixed payouts. So what I mean by that is like on Underdog, if you take this player's over or is under, like if you take a player's over versus under, it doesn't matter. You always get the same payout. Underdog doesn't have variable pricing. So what you want to do as a sharp bettor is compare the lines on Underdog to sports books. So if you take a look at Deshaun, all the books have been, pretty heavily favored to throw an interception. Pinnacle, which is known to be the sharpest bookmaker, one of the smartest sports books. All these books, DraftKings, $10 billion company, really sophisticated model. They're moving lines around based on where action's coming in. They have Deshaun heavily favored to throw an interception. Fliff has him minus 150. So all these books are data points. All these books are telling us, hey, he's more likely to throw an interception than, to not throw an interception. And again, like on Underdog, they'll give us the same payout if we take him to throw an interception or to not throw an interception. So we want to take him to throw an interception. So you'll see like a lot of these plays, they'll show up on the optimizer. They'll also show up on the positive EV tool. It's the same, concept. The only difference is the positive EV tool is comparing prices. So on Underdog, any 3-pick entry, you're getting minus 122 odds. If you go through the math, and we have some videos breaking down, but essentially everything on Underdog Fantasy is minus 122 odds for a 3-pick entry. It's like, but anyways, so we go to this next play and we have Dak, right? Like Underdog, they'll give us the same damn payout. If we take Dak over or under 31.5 passing attempts, same 3x payout if we take his over or his under for a 2-pick entry. So why do we want to take the over? Well, all the books have Dak, and you can pull up little line movement charts, but all the books have Dak heavily favored to go over. Pretty simple. So now we have 2 picks, and then we can take a look here at Aiden O'Connell. right? So what is it recommended? Aiden O'Connell, under 207.5 passing yards, right? So in the Raiders game, Jimmy G benched. All the sports books have his under heavily favored, right? Pinnacle, sharpest bookmaker. They're telling you through their odds, right? Sports books are telling you through their odds, hey, like this guy's a lot more likely to go under, and we're using that information to beat Underdog Fantasy. It's kind of like, so if we go over to DraftKings, so let's take a look at DraftKings. If we look at the games tomorrow, NFL, the 49ers are favored to beat the Jaguars. They're more likely to win, So if we could, of course, Underdog Fantasy is only player props, but if we could, you'd rather include the 49ers as opposed to the Jags in your Underdog entry. And again, on Underdog, any 3-pick entry has a 6x payout. So we have 3 picks, but it's ideally we can find a 5-pick entry with insurance or something like that. Those are actually the best type of slip. Just very slightly, I play a lot of 3-pick entries because the benefit of playing a 5-pick insured entry is only very slight, and usually it's easier. It's easier to catch underdog sleeping in 3 spots, find 3 good lines as opposed to 5. But regardless, we have Donovan Wilson under 5.5 tackles plus assists. So he's on the Cowboys. Right? So this actually pairs pretty well. When you're including picks in the same game, you just want to think about do these things pair well together? So this does pair well together, right? Taking a player on the Cowboys to go under on defense and then, Dak over in passing attempts, these things are a little positively correlated, right? If the Cowboys are having long possessions dominating the game, the offense is going to be on the field more. Dak's more likely to go over, and Donovan Wilson's more likely to go under. So here we go. We kind of have this little 3-pick entry. So then we have Brian Branch over in tackles plus assists. This plays in green on the optimizer, and all the books, have his line heavily favored to go over. So you can take a look at Fliff or whatever. All these books are data points. All these books have sophisticated models. They're moving lines based on where sharp action's coming in. If all the sharps are betting it over, they'll move lines towards the over. These books aren't fucking stupid. So if you take a look here, tackles plus assists, Brian Branch, Fliff has him heavily favored to go over, minus 150 favorite to go over. So it's okay, that seems like a good play to go with. And then you can see the other fantasy sites like PrizePicks have his line higher at 6. So it's okay, we now have this 3-pick entry, $50 max bet size. But I gave out this play, this little underdog promo. I already put 10 on Deshaun as well as Wilson. So I already have 10 down. They're giving me a max of 50. So this is what sucks about sports betting. Even once you learn how to be profitable, how to get an edge, like Underdog Fantasy, they only give me a max bet size of $50. It kind of sucks. I already bet Dak for 10. So they're not going to let me bet the full 50. If I try to bet 50, it's probably going to say, oh, you can only do 40 or whatever. You couldn't detect my location. So let's refresh this. I'm not sure why it's not letting me place this bet, but we'll place this bet. Then we can go over to PrizePicks and take a look at PrizePicks. So again, these plays I skipped over because you only have 2 data points, underdog and hot streak. What's going on? Let's see if it gets my location. Allow. And let's see if this works. And then we'll place this play. Okay, I think it got it. I think it got my location. So I'm only going to be able to bet this for $40 more. Let's stop dicking around on this site. I don't want the lines to move. You can only have 1 entry with Donovan Wilson and Deshaun Watson. What? So they're only going to let me have 1 entry because I already included them in this promo play. I mean, this is what's hard as a sharper bettor is these books, they try to screw you in any way possible. So they're not going to let me bet on, Deshaun and Wilson. But what I can do is that sucks. But what I can do is I can just play it as a 3-pick entry, which obviously is a little less profitable, but, whatever. And then 3-pick entries, you want to do no insurance. You're getting a 6x payout on underdog, 50 to win 300. You've hit your $50 limit on Deshaun. What are you talking about? Let's try 40. You can only have one entry with Deshaun. So, super annoying. Oh, they want me to add the play with Dak. So it's just a little frustrating, but kind of how it is sometimes. So we can go over to Dak, over 31.5 passing attempts, and they'll let me bet this for $50. So you're getting a 6x payout on Underdog, 4 3-pick entries. On PrizePicks, they only give you, if you take a look, they only give you a 5x payout for these 3-pick entries. Unsurprisingly, that really matters long-term, getting a 6x payout versus a 5x payout. So it's like, okay, we now got our first entry on Underdog Fantasy. And again, I would have liked to include those other 2 picks, but I can't. So again, too, just like Underdog's been running a lot of promos recently, like this promo on Giannis. They brought his points line down from 30.5 to 23. So they're down 15 points to the Magic. But hopefully Giannis cashes, and obviously getting those 7 points of value, that helps a lot long term. So keeping an eye out, for these profitable promos, definitely worthwhile. Anyways, so what we can do is we can go over to ParlayPlay. So these fixed payout websites like Underdog are, pretty interesting. Whereas when you're betting on a traditional sports book, like here we have Fliff, it's a lot easier because you can place straight bets. Like on Underdog Fantasy, there's no straight bet, right? Like you can't just bet on LeBron over 23.5 points or whatever. Like I can't just bet on Calhoun to go over 44.5 receiving yards. That's not how it works. You have to make at least 2+ picks, as it says here. Parlays only parlays. You can't place straight bets. Whereas on Fliff, it's a lot easier because you can bet on straight bets. So if you look at like Hunter Renfrow, receiving yards, under 15.5 receiving yards. So if we go over to the Jets game, and I always recommend like not only using multiple books, but just knowing how to navigate these books quickly is helpful. Like the best lines, the best arbitrage bets, they're not going to last forever. So just being able to navigate these books quickly is helpful. So we want Renfrow under 250, hit it, 1.43% profit margin. So I literally like solely follow the data, never bet with my gut, really just trying to treat my sports betting like a hedge fund, like an investor, right? Like I place a bunch of bets all with an edge, the mathematical profit margin. And, that's about it. And then I let the math work itself out. Nothing super complicated. So like Hunter Renfrow, you may not use Caesars, right? If you're in California, you don't have access to Fliff, you do have access to Fliff, to betting on Fliff, but you may not use Caesars, but Caesars is still a source of information, right? The same way on Underdog Fantasy, whoops, no idea what just happened. The same way on Underdog Fantasy, it's like, okay, like Deshaun Watson to throw an interception. I don't use Pinnacle. Pinnacle, it's not legal in the United States, but I still want to look at their odds and see where do they have Deshaun, where are they pricing him? Because it's the sharpest sports book in the world. It's the smartest bookmaker. They take bets from all around the world, have the highest betting limits, are known for having very sharp customers that shape their lines. They have very accurate odds, and they have Deshaun heavily favored to go over to throw an interception. So that's useful information, right? And as a sports bettor, like more data is power. And, there's hundreds of sports books. For esports, there's not a bunch of books that do lines. But when you're thinking about the NFL, like if we look at NFL money line, there's hundreds of sports books, literally 219 sports books that post NFL money line odds, right? All these books have sophisticated models. No offense. I don't care how smart you think you are. You're not creating a better model than Caesar Sportsbook, a $10 billion company with better data feeds, all that stuff. So you want to use all these sportsbook odds, the information in their lines to find good bets. Like if I could get the Patriots, the entire market has the Patriots at plus 110. If I could get them plus 150, that would be a no-brainer. The same way, even if you don't know anything about Facebook stock, if you could buy it at $300 when it's trading in the market at $328.77, you'd know you got a great deal. right? You're following the data to find plays with an edge. But anyways, we can go to PrizePicks next. And where do we want to start? So PrizePicks has a lot more, it looks like, esports value, which is great. I'm a fan. And it looks like Underdog moved 2 of those plays right after we bet them, little shitheads they are. But anyways, we got some plays on PrizePicks, so let's take a look at PrizePicks. So the first play OddsJam's recommending, again, esports is great just because there's so many games. The first play OddsJam's recommending is Sun Paus under 31. So not as many books post esports lines as, NFL. Unsurprisingly, esports is a less popular sport, but PrizePicks does, and there are other betting markets. So you can see PrizePicks has the line at 31. All these other books have the line at 29, 29.5, 28.5. You may not use Hot Streak, but this sports book has this player's line, first of all, 2.5 points lower, and they have the under favored, right? There's more juice towards the under. It's a minus 153 favorite. So this sports book, their model through their odds, you can see they're telling you, hey, we think he's more likely to go under 28.5 as opposed to over. They have the under juice, the under favored. PrizePicks has the line at 31. So if you go through the math behind PrizePicks, and I got my little spreadsheet, is on PrizePicks to be profitable, all you have to do, if you go through the math behind PrizePicks payouts, all you got to do to win long-term on PrizePicks is be able to win these over-unders, just like Sun Paus over-under 31. You just got to be able to win these over-unders above 54.25% of the time, right? It's pretty fucking simple. If you have any data knowledge, it's like being able to short a stock at 31 when it's trading in the market at 29. This sports book has his line at 28.5 with the under favored. PrizePicks has the line 2.5 points higher. So this is a play. We're using market information. Literally, this is what PrizePicks boils down to. They have fixed payouts. You're always getting the same payout. It all boils down to, can you win your picks above 54.25% of the time? So the second play I think is really good. Really good, as long as they didn't get rid of it, is Derrick Henry, no touchdown. So you can see Pinnacle or Pinnacle, different abbreviations. It's known to be the sharpest sports book out there, the smartest one. They have the under heavily favored, right? Minus 154 favorite. All these other sports books, like you can see DraftKings, they have the line at plus 130, Fanatics plus 140, FanDuel plus 135, right? So they're only giving you one-way markets. So there is no line on FanDuel. If you go to FanDuel, and again, you may not use FanDuel, but we're using their odds as a source of information, and we go to the Titans game, you'll see that you can bet on Derrick Henry to score. He's plus 135 to score, betting 100 to win 135 in profit. So he's an underdog to score. You're betting 100 to win 135. But there's no odds, you can't bet him to not score on FanDuel. But if you just assume they had the same odds as Pinnacle, right? So they're giving you plus 135. Pinnacle was only giving you plus 115. They'd have the under around minus 174, right? So they'd have Derrick Henry as a minus 174 favorite to not score. DraftKings minus 169, right? Minus 179 for Fanatics, minus 189 for PointsBet, right? PointsBet has him plus 150 to score. He's a big underdog to score a touchdown, so we know he's more likely to not score. So this is a play winning above 54.25% of the time. That's a sharp bet, a really profitable play in a PrizePicks entry. So it's okay, let's include that. Then there's some more esports plays, but you can't include picks in the same game. So we're going to skip over this second play with a slightly lower profit margin. So all these plays in green are winning above 54.25% of the time and are profitable. Doesn't mean they're a lock, but you will make money long-term playing these plays. So next play, we have Blame F, right? So 34.5. All the other books have his line lower. Hot Streak has his line at 32.5 with the under favored. Even if you don't use Hot Streak, that's a data point telling you, hey, he's a lot more likely to go under as opposed to over. So we want to take this, and now we have 3 picks, all under so far, which I guess is just how it's going to be in this slip. And then we have Snappy. So this plays in the same game. So that's not going to work. This plays in the same game as this play, Buzz. So that's not going to work. However, we have this play, and I try to move quick just because, again, like these great lines, whether you're arbitrage betting, however you're betting, you want to find value in the market. They're not going to last forever. So next we have Hawkinson under 5.5 receptions. So let's go back here. Let's refresh this. Right, Gus Edwards, no receiving yards. I mean, kind of random play, but you can see here, like, again, I take my emotions completely out of sports betting, literally just follow the data. So let's go here to Hawkinson, right? And where do we want to go? Whoops. Damn, NFL, they got a 5th tab. You used to sportsbook shoving the NFL down your throat. So we have Hawkinson under 5.5 receptions. We wanted this player over, right? We got a new quarterback for the Vikings. Then we have Tyler Lockett over 4.5 receptions. That seems solid, right? So it's like, okay. And then we want Gus Edwards, no receiving yards. So we're just finding 6 picks that are winning above 54.25% of the time. For 6 flex, it's like very marginally better. You only have to win like 54.15% of your picks to be profitable. So Gus Edwards, all the books are saying, yo, he's not going to get a receiving yard. So it's like, okay, like whatever. This is a good slip. And you'll see like PrizePicks, I made too much money off them. They're going to say, oh, you can only get $25. Then it's like, you assholes, and they'll take it. So here we go. We got a $25 flex play, 25 to win 625. Here's their payout structure. And this never changes, right? All of PrizePicks, you're always getting the same payout for a 6 flex. So the entire platform just boils down to what percentage of your picks can you win. And then we can go back here. And we already placed this bet on Hunter Renfrow. Great. So if we go back here, it's like, okay, not much more value. I don't have ParlayPlay filtered in, though. Like, you can always add whatever books you use. In these live streams, I try to focus on ParlayPlay, Underdog, PrizePicks, because they're legal in the most locations. But again, FanDuel, Caesars, like, there's good bets on all these platforms. There's good arbitrage plays. It just, more books you got, the better. So arbitrage is great. This game's starting in 3 minutes, but arbitrage betting is when books get so out of sync. All these books set their own odds, their own lines. When they get super out of sync, like here, Fliff and DraftKings, you can bet equal and opposite outcomes on 2 books to guarantee a profit. So here, Georgetown minus 23.5, Holy Cross plus 23.5. These are equal and opposite outcomes. If Georgetown wins by 24, we'll win our bet on Fliff. We'll lose on DraftKings. If they don't win by 24 or more, we win on DraftKings, we lose on Fliff. So you can guarantee a profit of, depending on your bankroll, it's just risk-free money. If you're logged into these books, you go, you place this bet quickly, you make a risk-free profit of $11.72. So we have some tutorial videos on the OddsJam YouTube about arbitrage and stuff like that. But anyways, how are we looking on ParlayPlay? Is there a lot of value, a little value? Is it worth placing a slip? So we can go back here, and damn, there is a lot of value on ParlayPlay right now. So, Looney double, plus 500 on FanDuel. All these other books around plus 350-ish. That doesn't seem bad. So what we can do is we can throw in ParlayPlay quickly. And we already have it in, so it's like, okay. Usually I recommend setting your max odds around like plus 150. So we have Madison rushing attempts. I mean, there's a bunch of plays. Shit. So we could play some. You can see there's a bunch of value. And again, like the benefit of having multiple books is this play, like some of these plays, they're only available on, certain platforms. So if you look at ParlayPlay, you can get Curry under 29.5 points. So if you go here, right, we can get Curry under 29.5 points. Like all these books have different lines. So sometimes there's really good lines, really good value on PrizePicks. Other times it's ParlayPlay. Other times it's Underdog. So if we go to Underdog, we can see like, where do these guys have Curry's line? So if we go here, like where's Curry's line? They have him at 28.5 points. So it may not seem like a big difference, 29.5 versus 28.5, but like this stuff makes a huge difference long term. So if we go to like NBA player points, obviously I'm not saying Curry is bad. I'm not saying he's washed up. It's like all these other books have Curry's line at 27.5, 28.5 with the under favored, 27.5 on Fliff. Like it's pretty clear, just treating all these books as data points, like, yo, there's some pretty damn good value taking this under. Sheesh. So it's but it's the same strategy where you know, on ParlayPlay, you get the same payout, right? Like if we're taking a 2-pick entry, we get a 3x payout. Doesn't matter if we take Edmonds, his over or his under, but if you look at like tackles plus assists, and we take a look at Edmonds quickly, right? All the books have him heavily. DraftKings, minus 166 favorite to go under. Minus 145 here. This book has his line at 3.5. MGM, minus 145 favorite to go under. So on ParlayPlay, it's like you have to win, you know, something like, I forget, 53.9% of your picks to be profitable. So it works similar to PrizePicks. Like I have a spreadsheet. I have some videos breaking it down. For 6-pick entries, they actually have the exact same payout as PrizePicks. So we just want to find a bunch of plays with an edge. Long story short. So like, look at this play. Damn. So we have Edmonds under. We want Warren under. So let's go back here. We can take Warren under. So they have the same payout as PrizePicks, but different lines, right? There's a benefit to having both books because they all don't have the same line. Right now, there's a really good line on Curry on ParlayPlay, 29.5. It's not available on PrizePicks. So you can see we want Warren's under, and it's like, okay. But if we look at tackles plus assists plus again, and we take a look at Bell, it's like all these books have his line at 6.5. DraftKings has his line at 6.5 with the over favored, right? 6.5, 6.5, 6.5 on Underdog. So it's like, what are they doing with his line at 6? Clear value taking the over. And they have reduced. They've changed their payouts around, which is a little annoying a bit recently. PJ Washington over 6.5 rebounds plus assists. So it's like, okay, you know, this play's not available on PrizePicks. If it were available on PrizePicks, we could bet it on PrizePicks. But this is why you got to be using as many bucks as possible. There is no PJ. PrizePicks doesn't even have any lines up for PJ Washington. They're like, nope, no PJ Washington today. So it's like, okay, we got some plays in this game. I'm not going to. So Prater under 6.5 kicking points. All the books have him heavily favored to go under 6.5 kicking points. And there we go. So now we have a little 6-pick flex play. Every pick winning above 54.25% of the time. That's why they're in green. They're profitable. $60 max bet size. So I think 7-pick entries are like literally a smidge better. But in my opinion, like for the extra variance, a 7-pick, 75 plus, parlay, it's not worth it. Similar to like Underdog 3-pick versus 5-pick entries. 5 picks are just a smidge better in terms of EV. But, not necessarily worth it. So we can go here to deck. So now we can start building a second slip. And again, there's no reason to waste a bunch of time. It's like, okay, Davis, I don't overthink it at all. All the Bucks have him heavily favored to go over, right? Dak Prescott, I'm aware. Maybe the Cowboys are blowing out the Giants in the second quarter. Dak stops throwing the ball. They're just running, right? And he doesn't go over. Like, tons of things can happen. Nobody knows the future. We're just finding a bunch of plays with an edge and letting the math work itself out. So here we got another pick. Budda Baker over 6.5 tackles plus assists, right? Darius Garland. Or what we can do is we already included this play on Curry. They only have a max bet size of $60. But if you want to double down on Curry, we can take Curry under in points plus rebounds as well. Points plus rebounds, grab his under there. And you can see they already bumped his line to 28.5. We got him under 29.5. So that worked out well for us. Then they have Garland's over, but So then we have an under in the Steelers game, and it's like, damn, there's a lot of bets available. Mixon under 17.5 rushing attempts. Ooh, that play seems great. So the only thing you want to be aware about is, all the books have this under heavily favored. So I just throw out, depending on the day, some days there's a lot of profitable bets. I can only bet $60. So I want to get down the volume. I want to get down a bunch of good plays. FanDuel has his line at 16.5 with the under favored. So again, even if you don't use FanDuel, this is still a data point for you to consider. Like if we go here and we go to rushing props, where's Mixon? His rush attempts line is at 16.5 with the under favored. On ParlayPlay, we got him under 17.5. No brainer. So if we go back here, what we can do is we can take Hayward, right? We have Garland. What did we want for Garland, right? And any of these picks for a 6-pick entry are going to be profitable long-term. So we want Garland over 27.5 PRAs. Okay. We want this player under in receptions. Okay. And Madison over 13.5 rushing attempts. DraftKings has his line at -150. No brainer. So rushing attempts, we want his over. And it's like, okay, it doesn't take a lot of time to do. And again, I don't look at my bets, over the course of, you can see all these plays. So like if you go till the end, all of these picks would be good in a 7-pick entry. But again, like on ParlayPlay. So I'm going to skip over these picks. We'll just kind of call it a day for now. Are there any good arbitrage plays? So I just kind of bounce around from tool to tool, platform to platform. Some days there's more value on other platforms. And I recommend getting all the books in your state. Like there's some, like the best play currently available on FanDuel right now is on FanDuel. Hunter Henry under 2.5 receptions. So the more books you have access to, the better. Like, what are they doing? All the other books have this line around like +120. And again, the way that sports books work is they charge a spread called the vig. So we're beating the no vig odds. That's what we're always trying to do. Anyways, call it a day for now. Thanks so much for your time.